Welcome back. It's been a minute since I made any content, but fortunately I have some time to make some regular videos now. And this video and these videos are going to be me unpacking some concepts I've learned quite passively in the past. So this video is me unpacking the idea of art being objective. So to do this, I have to consider a few things first. So what art is, why it is subjective, and how do you value it objectively, and where would that apply? And the last thing to consider is something that always crops up in conversations that I see or have about art being objective, which is, does that take away from your feelings about the art? So the personal experience or the subjectivity or the opinions that you have. So I think it's useful to set the goalposts firmly in the beginning and just clarify terms of subjectivity, objectivity, and what art is, just so it's clear what it is that I'm actually talking about. So the first term is subjective, and the definition I'm using is being based on or influenced by a person's feelings, tastes, or opinions. The second term is objective, and the definition I'm using is not influenced by personal feelings when considering or representing facts. So the stark opposite of subjectivity. And the last term is art. Now, this can cause a lot of arguments or ambiguity and cause a lot of people to talk past each other. So I'm using a very strict definition of art here. And the definition I'm using is the conscious expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. So of course there are other definitions of art that people will talk about, to even say things like a tree or nature is art or different things, but for the sake of the video and this topic of objectivity in art, I'm using this very strict definition to reference the art that we most commonly refer to as art. Okay, so simply put, I would say that art is subjective, but I don't think it's fair to say that art is only subjective. I think it's quite clear that we will experience art in objective ways, or we talk about art objectively kind of all the time. Socially though, we just accept that art is subjective and kind of don't really put up any argument against that. So when we ever come across a piece of art that we don't understand, like a banana taped to a wall, for example, by Maurizio Cattelan, we say things like, well, I could do that, as we think the only thing that's valuable about it is the skill that we recognize. Or even, well, I'm not an artist, so I wouldn't know, as if it's some esoteric thing that only a few special people can know about. If art was or is entirely subjective, it would make the way we interact with it insanely difficult. For example, how would you value art financially? I mean, the worth of a piece of art will differ from person to person because they're valuing it based on what they think of it compared to the amount of money or wealth that they have. But away from personal purchases, for example, the UK government uses art as tax breaks in the form of donations. So how does the government value art consistently to allow it to be used in this way? Art competitions, for example, that happen all around the world. When you have live competitions where artists will be given a task and a time limit to create a winning piece, to static competitions where artists will submit their work to a panel of judges. So how could that possibly work if there was no consistency in how people judge art? How would you even provide transparency on a judge's decision? But I think the thing that stood out to me most at the thought of art only being subjective would be all of the questions that would be raised towards the education system. And all the saliva that's in my mouth, apparently. How would you teach art if it's only subjective? How would you develop an eye for quality, for learning what's good or what isn't, or what's better, or how to develop yourself? And maybe the most important questions that would need to be asked, if you were considering art in a financial sense or in a competitive sense and in education, would be around expertise. Who's to say that your opinion of art is of any value to anyone? I mean, this wouldn't just be true of traditional art, so like painting, sculpture, drawing, that kind of thing. I mean, you could really start digging at these things in all other art forms. How can we say that there are good or bad singers, actors, or writers, filmmakers, for example? We consume art from these types of people all of the time in films, songs, books, etc. And we pay attention to the awards or the accolades that are given to them as well, all with the word best attached, best newcomer, best author, best singer, best director, these kinds of things. So who would be the appropriate person to say X is the best singer and Y is the best painter? And I don't say this arbitrarily. I say this to acknowledge that there are already established understandings of who is the best actor or what makes a good singer or a bad one. The people that can replicate notes that we all value and that we like to listen to. Which is the important point, I think, is that I'm not discussing why we value what we value. I'm discussing what we value and how to talk about that comparatively. I think the trouble starts when we try to compare different things or things that don't seem to have a commonality between them or a common ground. And I think when we're talking about art or anything subjective, when you have two or more incomparable categories, seemingly incomparable categories, we have to agree on parameters first. And what I mean by this is that we have to decide what it is that we're actually comparing when we decide that something is better than something else. And where people don't do this, you see the dead-end debates about the top 5 rappers or the top 5 singers or whatever the subject is. So as an example, it would be unreasonable for me to ask you to compare 2 singers with incomparable categories. So singer A, I'm asking you to judge them by their vocal range, and singer B, I'm asking you to judge them by their ability to affect you through a difficult period in your life with their music. It doesn't make any sense. And likewise, it would be difficult for me to judge 2 painters with incomparable categories, for example. So I would be judging painter A on their ability to mix correct values and painter B on their ability to capture the likeness of someone that I care about who's passed away. So if everything I've said so far is me identifying the problems with viewing art solely subjectively, then this next part will be me talking about the solution of being able to talk about art objectively. So to be able to value art, judge it and teach it consistently and effectively, I think we need to agree on certain parameters that the arts in question can be measured by. So a few quick examples of these 3, of valuing it, judging it and teaching it, would be, so to value a piece of work, we consider authenticity as important. So we value people and we value what people think. When an artist makes a piece of work, they're doing so through a series of decisions, and we agree to value those decisions as part of the work's value or worth. If we didn't, then any passable forgery or copy of an artist's work would be worth at least as much as the original. The second, to judge a piece of work, and to do so we have to consider what's important to the genre of art that we are participating in judging. It would be useless if we got a group of artists to compete in a portrait competition where we consider likeness, ask them to paint the Queen, and all of them have somewhat accuracy in portraying that Queen's likeness, and we give the award to someone who paints a duck. And lastly, to teach art, we consider intended execution, so conscious decision making, not accidental. The ability to make the image that you want, as opposed to just constantly moving the materials around until you stumble across something that someone likes the look of. Just so it's clear, this is useful for the simple reason that you may be required or hired or asked to make a piece of work for someone who doesn't want to waste their time and money on any of your failed attempts. Just for a second, forget Leo DiCaprio or Viola Davis. Imagine an actor who occasionally stumbled across the right way to represent their character, and they're hired to do a film or a TV series. Days on end would be wasted and sets paid for just in the hope that this actor was able to portray something consistently for the film or TV series or whatever is being made. The good thing is that the context I'm talking about don't take away from your opinion or what you like or your tastes. The important distinction I'm making is to say that you don't need to have something be your taste for you to recognize that it's good. This actually creates a nice 4-way table, which is how I actually view art, and this allows for different perspectives that don't take away from your opinions or the validity of your opinions, nor the value of the artwork itself. So if we were to use the portrait competition example again, where we value likeness as the main component of a portrait, you can see here how your opinion can be separate from the art being good or bad. And you can see in the 4 boxes that your opinion and its ability to be a good image can both stand together. So, for example, if you like it and it captures likeness, you like it and it's good. If you like it and it doesn't capture the likeness, you like it and it's not good. If you don't like it and it captures likeness, you don't like it, but it's good. If you don't like it and it doesn't capture the likeness, you don't like it and it's not good. I'm not saying that we should view art in this way. I'm putting an argument to say that this can be helpful when we're talking about art objectively and providing transparency and being consistent in how we value, measure, and judge art. Doing this allows you to enjoy and equally dislike work without your opinion affecting the work's value. So obviously I've stated my thoughts around thinking about art objectively and providing transparency and being consistent with these things. And a big reason that I am such an advocate for this is that I think it provides a stable route for artists to better themselves based on whatever it is that they value. Transparency and consistency in how we talk about art can provide clarity for people when there may not be a blueprint of how to develop themselves. I say this not to tell artists what art to make, but how to better the art that they want to make, how to appropriately compare themselves to their peers and their previous works. The types of systems and structures of how to do that, I'll be talking about in future videos. So this is my argument for talking about art objectively, kind of in its, not in its syllogistic form, but just in a quite a basic one. I'll be unpacking the ideas that I have around how you could implement those structures or how those structures already look in establishments and established environments already in future videos. So thanks for watching. It's good to be back making videos and I'll see you on the next one.